Pam, that was excellent. It really was a great way to provide a context, I think, for this whole conversation. You know, that this is going to be a global competition as more and more institutions are getting into the game. And it absolutely is moving toward mass personalization. I've heard it called the Amazonification of higher education, where, you know, you're catering to the student or the customer's individual needs and desires and wants at the time and place and of that student's choosing. So moving forward, the rest of the meeting is really going to be hopefully more of a conversation, more of a discussion. We've generated lots of ideas. So after we've talked about some of these ideas, we want to bounce them off you and get your feedback as to what you think sounds most appropriate going forward. Some of the things, and Pam already mentioned these, although I wanted to point out that, again, we're talking about programs as opposed to courses. One of the things that VCT did in the beginning was just to exchange courses. Well, now that institutions have specialty degrees, maybe you offer an entire degree program via VCT as opposed to individual courses. For instance, in competency-based education, Austin Community College has an AAS in Computer Information Systems, which is totally competency-based. We just got a grant from the coordinating board to work with South Texas College, I believe it was South Texas, yeah, to do a bachelor's degree in Computer Information Systems that will be totally competency-based. We are in a consortium with Alamo, El Paso, and San Jacinto to do complete OER degrees. Our first two degrees are the AA and the AS in General Studies, but very quickly we're going to look at business and some of the other kinds of degrees to offer a full degree program to students who can access their learning materials in an open, non-proprietary manner. It doesn't mean they would totally be free. Possibly there would be some some fee that they might have to pay because, as our friend Linda Williams from Tidewater said, OER is free like a puppy. It's going to require the continual maintenance and grooming, so to speak, and we're going to have to continually train faculty to ensure that they're able to create and maintain OER materials going forward. Model dual credit courses has been thrown out there as a possibility. A lot of conversation has circled around dual credit as dual credit enrollments expanded across the state. Over 150,000 enrollments. Universities have begun to push back a little bit, and there was this question of consistency and quality. Do all dual credit courses rise to the same level of quality and consistency? As you know, the coordinating board hired the RAND Corporation to study this issue. They've come out with part one of their report, which is on the coordinating board website, and they're doing part two of that report now. But it seems going forward, it's kind of back to a theme that Pam mentioned that I think is so important, as opposed to a past where individual faculty worked independently in their own offices, you know, to develop courses and potentially programs. The trend is increasingly to move that to more team-based approaches, to share the knowledge that might exist in a wider group of people. Obviously, an individual faculty member has academic freedom in the way they teach a course and the spin they might give to a course, but increasingly it's difficult to argue against some of the quality of course materials that may be out there. I know Susie and I went to a meeting of the American Publishers Association a week or so ago, and a trend across the nation is called digital inclusive access. This began at the University of Indiana in 2009, and the goal is to make all learning materials available to students digitally as opposed to hard copy. It's not, but they still might be proprietary textbooks, but if you make them available digitally, typically the price goes down and students have access to them on day one. You don't get that, lag and delivery of books to the bookstore and financial aid kicking in and all that kind of thing. So the idea is make all materials available digitally, and students have greater access and typically lower prices. So lots of trends we're seeing develop. I'm going to stop at this point and hand it over to Clark. He's going to talk about some of the things VCT currently does and raising the question, are these things we still need to continue to do or not?
Most everyone here is aware of VCT's beginnings, and as Pam mentioned, it was started with the idea that it would allow particularly students from small schools that had smaller programs and didn't necessarily have all of the classes available every semester, that those students could then go ahead and take them from across the state. The need for it, obviously, as the programs increased at individual institutions, the need for it has declined. But over 50,000 students have used VCT since 1998, since it started. I've actually been involved with VCT for over 11 years now, because before Gary left and I took this position, I was the VCT coordinator for ACC. I can't believe I've been here that long, I really can't. But even this past fiscal year, there were still 1,261 course enrollments and 37 colleges taking part. So it is still an important part of VCT moving forward, I believe, because it is still necessary for many of the smaller schools. There's a couple of schools that utilize VCT to supplement their own curriculum, really, because they're just small colleges, and otherwise their students would have to wait 2 years to take a course. Anyway, most everyone knows that several years ago, while Ron was still here, in an effort to kind of expand the scope as the enrollments had been falling, he was able to do statewide licenses for Dallas Telelearning, Soft Chalk, and Smarter Measure, which was a very successful thing. But then, of course, the lean times came, and it wasn't sustainable. VCT couldn't afford to pay those licenses year after year, and we're going to have to send it back to the colleges, individual colleges, if they wanted to use those items. But funding is sort of stabilized. Of course, this year, we weren't sure if they were going to continue to fund, if they weren't, but at least the amount of money had stabilized. And so new initiatives had certainly come along. The biggest of which is probably the text QMC, the Quality Matters. But also we started looking at compliance, ADA compliance, and then other SARA compliance or state authorization regulations. And I don't know where, I honestly don't know where the mission statement that's currently on the VCT website came from, when it got put there. I don't know if Jeannie does, but it came with Ron? Okay. but it seems like then even Ron was recognizing then, the need to, evolve with VCT. And it's there at the bottom of that first page, increasing access to higher education and improving student success through collaborative sharing of e-learning resources, which covers it all. That's what we want to do. And in that packet, there's, one-pagers with information on our various current initiatives and then some of the things that we're kind of working on towards in the future. The Texas Quality Matters Consortium, this is what we call a fact sheet. We can send it out to colleges to let them know the advantages that they will have in joining with our consortium. It's currently at 23 colleges, and the implementation at individual colleges is sort of all over the board, but that's okay. Colleges take what they're able to with Quality Matters and utilize the parts that they can for the amount of money that they can spend, is what it comes down to a lot, because we all know Quality Matters is not cheap. You know, by the time you have trained some people, you're at a couple $1,000s there, you know, and then if you want to do you know, official reviews, even in our consortium, they're still $550, which is a lot cheaper than the $1,000 from national, but it's still a lot of money. So many institutions are utilizing QM training to train their faculty to be their own instructional designer. I've heard that from a couple of colleges throughout the state. And then some colleges will train a number of people as facilitators and then utilize that as professional development within their own school, because it's almost free when they do it that way. The only cost that they will pay is materials from QM. And that's a common way. And then there are others that are going full bore and say, we've got money, you know, maybe we've obtained a grant, a quality grant, and we're able to do official review after official review. We have a couple of colleges that are that way. Mm-hmm.
Follow up on the comment that comment that Pam made, that QM is only review of courses as opposed to programs. What was the organization that you refer to that provides quality criteria for programs?
That's OLC.
It's called the Quality Scorecard, and it's through the Online Learning Consortium.
Right.
Okay. So do we link that in as well? Do we provide anything via?
We actually don't have anything through VCT with OLC. We're a member, but what did, I guess Gary had suggested a group membership throughout the state for OLC, and no one wanted it. So it was one of those things. I don't know. I'm not really sure why it didn't take off the way.
There was difficulty coordinating it throughout the state. He was able to get it at a discounted rate. We actually had 2 colleges that were interested, but they all had different starting dates as a subscription, and getting that synced up as a logistics.
Right.
Maybe that's something we could explore once again to see what are the pros and cons to other institutions as to a group membership in the online consortium.
Right. And I think that would be fine. I've actually, considered that a couple of times over the past year when, I've seen something from OLC and said, oh, that would be great to push out, but it's like, well, not everyone's a member. And so, but definitely something to look into. Also, I just came from the QM conference last week. They are beginning to look more at programs as well. I think they wanted to get this down and then kind of move forward from there. But they are looking at programs as well. That's just the information, like I mentioned from in the beginning, the host provider model. It's still 895 students, completed a part of their educational goal using VCT. I mean, it's not the 3,000 that we used to have, but it's still there. So I just don't want those students, to feel like we're ever going to just drop off. And again, it's 36 colleges participating. So maybe some of those colleges only had one student in the host or the provider role, but we have one college, I think, that had 130 they hosted 130 students. So there's still some variation there. The next page that's actually my memo that will go out to the VCT coordinators shortly. Most of you know that in an effort to address ADA accessibility, we were looking into a number of captioning services last year. We tried several of them out, did some pilots and everything, and we finally found one that we really liked, that was really inexpensive, and I made a gift to all of the colleges of 600 minutes of free captioning that they could use in any way they wanted, because I was looking into all the legalities of the ADA rules and some of the issues that were coming up with the lawsuits, and it's like, you can't just say, oh, well, I don't have a student with a disability in my class. It's like, it has to be ready from day one. So, and not only that, anything that comes from your institution has to be accessible. I mean, marketing things have to be captioned. A couple of the lawsuits are because the scoreboard at the football game was not captioned properly. And they might win, So, it's such an important thing. And so for fiscal year 2018, I have the budget for it, and I want to give 1,000 minutes this year. So everyone will be able to, continue this effort to, comply with the regulations.
Any feedback from institutions using it?
They love it. Every feedback that we've gotten, and the company that we're using is Rev. Every school that has given us feedback has been extremely happy. We have actually used it for we have our VCT coordinators meetings a couple of times a year, and when we had it was the December meeting, we had a few presentations, and I asked them to be recorded similar to this, and then we took those files. They were back to us in one day, ready to go, good captioning. ACC had a last-minute course. Someone needed to create a course at the last minute within like 2 weeks or something of the start date during the summer. 17 videos the faculty member had. We had them back within a day with both types of file, the VTT and SRT, within a day, and at $1 a minute, which is difficult.
Another thing we really like about it, they use human beings. There's no machine-automated caption involved. John, bring that up to that point. Their mission statement, or their stated goal, is to create 1 million work-from-home jobs in the United States. So these are our stay-at-home moms and, stay-at-home dads and people that just want to work from home. They're run through some very rigorous quality controls, and they encourage us to submit supplemental materials for difficult courses like chemistry or, biology that have terms, if there's
words like
foreign names involved or anything like that. So we've been more than impressed by their service. Fast turnaround, easy to upload files. Mm-hmm. For the same price, you can get a transcript or a handout generated. $1 a minute. Can't be. That's nationwide price. That's not a discount.
It's just their price. Yeah.
Do we get a group discount?
We don't actually.
How do we pursue that?
Well,
because they need to pay those workers from home.
Well, it's a lot cheaper than almost every other organization that does captioning.
Advantage to economy of scale if we know that there are thousands of potential
Right.
minutes they're going to get.
Right.
That we can then leverage a better price.
Right. Yes. Oh, for sure. That's definitely something that we can do going forward. But like you say, it's getting that. Okay, how much are we talking about? So we can go into a negotiation and say we're going to want 600,000 minutes worth of captioning for the state. What kind of deal can you give me? And so we haven't really been to that point. We've had, I think, in the last year with the Rev 600 minutes, we had 16 or 17 colleges take advantage of it. Which I keep saying, I'm giving this to you free, but and hopefully it will continue. Yep.
For states that have college, it did not work with Consortium. That's why we weren't able to use it.
It didn't. Huh.
The comment was that it didn't work with Kaltura.
That's the first really that I had heard.
Can you explore that with Rev to find out what's going on?
Definitely, yeah. But again, that's one of our initiatives that Gary had kind of began, but it was still in its infancy, and so I just kind of took it further and made sure that we tried out the different companies. And when we came across Rev, it just seemed like that was an easy choice at that price and everything. Upswing. Upswing is an online tutoring and student services platform. It's not simply just online tutoring. There's a lot to the platform, which is one of the reasons why it kind of caught my eye. And we've actually already had a college that tried it out with us in the spring and loved it so much they went full-time with them on their own. Howard College, decided, we love what they're doing. They have a number of different types of tutoring, but a couple of the things that I liked about the product was the cost structure. Oftentimes with online tutoring, it's like, you pay this much for an hour. Well, they bill by how many minutes the students use. So it's not an extra cost and everything. But we were able to get a couple colleges in a pilot going this fall. North Central Texas College and Western Texas College. Galveston obviously has had some issues due to the hurricane earlier. And they weren't ready to start piloting, this fall. So I said, if they want to try in the spring, I'd be willing to let them do that.
I think with all of these softwares, that same question of quantity discount should be raised.
Right, and it is, and we're
Okay.
actually for the pilots, even for this, they're discounting the price of the platform itself by $100 so that we can try it out. And I've asked all of the pilot programs that we have going on. I've actually asked the companies. I said I want some data in December to tell me what sort of usage, activity. I don't want to just throw money at things that no one is using. So I've asked all of the pilots to be able to provide me with some good data come the end of the semester so that we can make an educated decision about going forward. Okay, do we want to expand this and say maybe there's 15 colleges that would like to use Upswing? Okay, then we can go and say, okay, we've got 15 colleges. What can you do as far as a price break or such.
As we talk about online tutoring, and you're talking about how colleges can use it as a platform to hire their own tutors,
Yes.
This could be another situation where large colleges like Austin or Alamo could actually offer tutors to smaller colleges, maybe at a lower cost than what you would have to pay a company like Upswing or Smart Thinking or one of those.
Well, see, that's actually another really nice feature of Upswing. And the other thing that really, intrigued me by them when I first started talking to them is you don't have to use their tutors. They provide the platform. You can use your own tutors. And what I suggested to them is I said, okay, well, I work with VCT, which is a consortium of all these colleges. What if we got tutors from every college that could just go back and forth throughout the system? And they said, yeah, you should be able to do that. Now, we haven't had enough colleges, utilize this yet to try that out. But I know that some of the colleges are already using their own tutors that use Upswing. There's a number of colleges that have already started using Upswing without any help from VCT. They had started prior to us getting involved. But if we were able to do that at some point and say, okay, let's share tutors, that's a perfect way to utilize VCT. If say Odessa College has a tutor for biology, but Midland College doesn't, the student shouldn't have to drive back and forth. They can do it through this online platform. So it's definitely something that I was looking at as we were talking about this. Let's see, what else? On the agenda, it mentioned smarter services. I don't have any slide or anything for smarter services because we're still talking. We haven't really gotten to the point. They used to provide Smarter Measure, which of course is the tool that so many colleges really liked. I'd love to be able to get it back for everyone. We can't afford it. Their cost, they can't go back to an agreement like we had before. I think we were paying $60,000 for the whole state. And when I talked to them, they said there's just no way that they could, go back to something like that. However, they have new products and new technologies that they're working on. They actually have something that's similar to Smarter Measure, but you as an individual college would create your own sort of entry quiz or an orientation using their platform. So it's more of a platform rather than, just the Smarter Measure was. It's, specific. And that might be something that we might be able to do a nice statewide deal. Like I said, I'm still talking with them, so I didn't want to put anything up here that I can't substantiate. The next thing that was on there was the ILO software, and I apologize it didn't get into the little packet because it's the one piece that I didn't actually write up myself. Everything that I wrote up myself is in the little packet, but ILOS is actually a video capture software or platform. A number of colleges already knew about it or were using it. Laredo, for one, was using it extensively for captioning, but not the additional pieces. It was really neat. That sounds silly to say, but it kind of was. You're able to, a faculty member or whomever is able to have a camera on them. They're able to select a piece of the screen that they want to include in the video, touch a button, and it starts recording. I mean, it's very easily done. When it's finished, it's a stop, and then say, I want this captioned. You push a button there, and it goes, and they do the captioning. Now, for the pilot program, they only have, I think, 200 minutes of captioning, but they have unlimited usage, even in the pilot. We have 5 schools that are piloting this. Let me remember. Western Texas is actually one. Lee College, Laredo, because they wanted to try out the other features. Austin, and who's the 5th? Oh my goodness.
So what's the cost of this vis-a-vis, say, Rev?
Well, it can't really be compared because, yeah, Rev is just captioning service. This is, the whole video capture and captioning, plus it's all cloud-based. You can store everything on the cloud. And as I said, unlimited users. If an organization wants 3,000 of their employees to use it, they can, and it's easy.
Well, how's it charged?
Currently, the pilot is, I started the pilot in August, and August to December, we were paying $2,000 for to the end of December for each of the colleges. Austin, the one that I can't remember, those 2 colleges just started. South Texas College. What is wrong with me? I'm sorry. Because they just began just last week. And so they were like $1,500 for now through the end of December. And again, I asked ILOS to provide me with activity reports, and I need some data that says people are actually utilizing these tools that we're trying to help them with. I'm not sure exactly how the pricing structure would go, but if it is successful, if the pilot is successful and we're able to branch it out and say, okay, we have 20 schools that are interested in using this, I think we definitely have a leg up at the bargaining table then, to be able to get a good deal for everyone. They actually work already with the Iowa Consortium.
And Clark, I think that's what we're going to have to put together to argue a case for VCT, to say, okay, here are all these different softwares. Here's what they do. Here's what it would cost you as an individual institution. Here's what it would cost you if, say, 20 colleges in VCT take part.
Right.
And then, so people can begin to really make an analysis. Is VCT providing them, a return on their investment?
Right. And that's essentially what we do with Quality Matters.
Okay.
With our QMC, that's what the fact sheet is saying. Okay, look, VCT is paying the system fee, obviously. But then you'll pay $1,350 instead of $1,750.
Well, let's do that with all of our software.
And so, yeah. When we get to the point of okay, we want to offer this to everyone or offer this to, a much larger group, then we want to make sure that we have that information.
I don't know that we can wait until it's offered. I think it has to be a dynamic conversation. What would it cost if this many institutions came on board to do it? In other words, you're going to run into a chicken or egg type thing if we're waiting for people to actually commit to using it. It's going to be too slow.
No, understood. Yes. Now, next on the agenda was Stream It, but as I said, I wasn't aware that much about Stream It. So I did take a quick look, and it looks very interesting. If you wanted to say a few words about Stream It. Or Rick wants to say.
Yeah, Rick's just passing this out. Stream It is a product that was actually developed in the Dallas district to meet some of our needs with the coordinating board and with ADA compliance. It was a way to store our, it in some ways replaces Kaltura, stores our videos, but does automatic closed captioning. We've been working with IBM and using Watson in a way to, if you upload the videos, Watson, which is the, if you know who Watson is, he was the computer that played Jeopardy and won against, you know, some of the top Jeopardy players, because Watson is computerized, but it is doing closed captioning, and depending on the quality of the video, it can be, we're getting 98% accuracy in the closed captioning. As I said earlier, if a faculty member is recording something on their phone and they're doing it in their car and they're driving, the quality of that video isn't going to be good, and Watson can't hear it. But the product that we're developing is actually, we didn't intend others to use it, but many schools are coming to us saying it looks like a really good solution, and the cost per minute is 4 cents as opposed to $1. So it's not always, it's not humans that are doing it, but it is IBM, and IBM has sent in about 6 different engineers to get this product working. Again, we started it just for Dallas, but we've got a number of universities and other community colleges that are saying, you know, this really solves some problems because it's really instantaneous. The minute you upload videos, it does the closed captioning, and it's solving a lot of problems. So since we were talking about this, and I thought it might not be on your radar, I'll just bring it in, because if we're looking at costs per minute, it's very, very reasonable.
Right. Yeah. Great. Thanks. And, you know, I'm happy to, we normally have our, as I was mentioning, we normally have our VCT coordinators meetings, you know, in, you know, July and then December. And if someone wanted to stream it to our December meeting, perhaps, I mean, that would certainly be something we could work out and do that. So, let me see, where are we? Another thing, of course, and it was mentioned, was SARA and state authorization regulations. I'm a member of the Texas State Authorization Network already, and I became aware of this national one through WCET, and it provides so much information in an area where everyone is confused. You know, the rules for state authorization, you know, are confounded. We don't know what the new administration is how they're going to handle certain things. We don't know, you know, if they're going to have the same focus as the previous administration. There's so many unknowns there. The State Authorization Network, it was sort of an easy sell because I could buy it for the entire state for $5,000. I could buy us access for the year for $5,000. So I did that. I made sure that I got you know, a contact person at each institution so that they could get information as it came from this national organization. SAN offers, you know, various, you know, discussion boards. They do webcasts, phone calls. You know, it's information. And when new things are addressed, whether it be at a legislative level or in the DOE, it's something that the information can then get pushed out to the colleges in a more efficient manner. I don't think it's an organization maybe that will need to be around a long time, but I think it will probably be around for a couple of years, just because it's going to take that long for everyone to recognize and comply with whatever SARA regulations, because they address specifically SARA regulations as well. Okay, how do I, a college can ask a question, okay, SARA says I'm supposed to do this for any program that might be taken from outside the state. How do I comply with this request? So there'll be questions and answers, and a lot of our phone calls have already been about things like that, so. Mm-hmm.
Can I just add something to that, too? The SREB Electronic Campus, of which Texas was one of the original members, is going away, and SARA is going to use some of the funds they've got to really form an entire database of online colleges, online schools and programs across the country. So that will be something that I would think colleges would want to participate in as SARA rolls that out. So I think the SAN network is a way to get the information on all of that. But I think SARA itself is going to start doing a better job of explaining all of the services that they're trying to expand upon. But you're right, up until now it's been just trying to pull this whole thing together that's taken all of SARA's staff time, but now they're beginning, once they've got all these states involved, now they're looking at what services can be additionally added so that institutions and students can better figure out what's going on nationally. So.
Right, yeah. And you mentioned 48 states. Massachusetts, it's really, really close now. California, not so much, but Massachusetts, it's really, really close now. Florida actually just joined this summer. That was one of the holdouts as well. This felt like it was a really good investment for the state, because everyone needs to address this in their institution, if they offer online programs, because it counts even if you don't know that a student is outside the state, but it still counts. So if they actually went back and said, hey, under SARA, you're supposed to be providing this, this, and this, you could actually get in trouble for it. So I felt that was really important, and like I said, it was, for the price. I mean, it's $100 a school that I ended up paying. So, yeah. Also in there is a little bit of information. There's an activity report. How many host colleges? How many providers? How many colleges are involved or were involved during the last year in the text QMC, in the captioning? How many people attended VCT meetings, came to Austin to visit us? We always love that. And most people really love to come to Austin, so most of our meetings have been pretty, and then the SAN, I just put a column up there for how many colleges actually responded to my my information, and then the pilots, the Upswing and the ILS pilot. One of the reasons why I added that is, I don't know if you can see it up there, but it's on your page. Clarendon College, way up in the Panhandle, hasn't done anything with VCT in years. But when I offered them access to the state authorization network, they were one of the first colleges to email me back and say, okay, we'd like this person to be in. And that's actually something that is sort of addressed in, it's the very last pages of the booklet, but something that's addressed in here, and we've all discussed it, is the need for a reconnection throughout the state, and to bring back colleges that have fallen away from VCT that, say, oh, well, we don't use VCT's course sharing, so we don't need to do anything with them. Well, as you can see, there's a lot of other things that we're involved in now, and these initiatives can be beneficial to any of the colleges. In my plan, really, for this next year is actually some, college visits to actually physically drive out, visit people, get some personal contact. I think they miss that. I know that when Ron, when Ron was still doing this, I mean, he was all over, I mean, he would call people up, he'd go see them, he did these things, and I think, it will help us and it'll help us ultimately in showing that VCT is remaining a viable, important asset to the state to do that and to get those colleges involved. And they say, hey, we know VCT, they'll be able to do that.
Well, Clark, thank you very much. I think this is a very helpful summary of what's currently going on, and I think we need to keep it updated, make it more dynamic, and as I say, list all of our softwares there in a pattern or in a format, I should say, in which people can make some decisions. And let's start producing it maybe even once a month or so and sending it out for people and inviting their feedback on, how can this report be made more useful for you? What do you see as information that you need that's not readily available here? But thanks very much. This was very helpful. What was not listed among those various activities that VCT provides that you have thought about? Are there things that VCT could be doing that it's not doing at this point?
With the consultant's report, I appreciate we get the overview of Pam. Is any action being taken on that will help frame our conversation here today?
That's a good question that's probably better answered by TAC. Do you have any feedback on that? Yeah.
I actually would suggest that a lot of I would suggest actually that a lot of what we're trying to do and what we continue to do since the area was here, and even when Ron started to reach out for softwares and different ways that VCT could do, that we're already addressing some of what's in there. Now, can we do it better? Of course. I look forward to the opportunity if we can do something together, starting to address specifically some of the things in the report about professional development and things for the colleges. Can we provide it?
And maybe this can be refashioned somewhat into a response to the report. Yeah. So, Clark, let's think about that, reformatting this as a response to the report showing, the consultant recommended this is what we are doing in these areas, this is what we haven't done as yet, but these are things we could possibly do. And I think that'll help advance the conversation. So good point, Martha, thanks. What else? What other thoughts have occurred to you in terms of what VCT could be doing but is not? Obviously, we can circle back to this once we hear from Starlink.